It was supposed to be a night of celebration. Instead, I stood there, frozen, as my boss, smiling like a game show host, revealed my darkest financial struggles in front of 200 colleagues. My wife's face turned pale. Laughter echoed. I smiled back, but something in me cracked. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I went home, kissed my daughter goodnight, and started planning. Not revenge, just justice, with a touch of precision. A week later, the man who humiliated me. He was headline news, and not the good kind. The ballroom glowed in amber light as jazz hummed softly from the speakers. I lifted my glass of champagne, scanning the room until my eyes landed on the only two people who mattered. My wife, in her navy satin dress, and my daughter, fidgeting beside her, clutching a juice box she'd smuggled in. They smiled at me from the corner table near the wall. For that moment, the world felt warm and full. I raised my glass, a nod to the crowd, a nod to them. But before I could take a sip, a voice boomed across the microphone. Before we get to the awards, David, my boss, grinned as he strolled toward the stage. Let's have a little fun. He was known for his casual charisma, the kind that always made HR nervous, but the board members chuckle. The room shifted into anticipation. Now Ethan here, our star product guy, he gestured to me, has a great story of perseverance. You all know the success, but not many of you know the struggle. My smile stiffened. Ethan once had to declare bankruptcy, twice, before landing here, he said, chuckling. Lost his car, his house, but hey, now he's got a desk and a key card. Laughter. Actual laughter. I felt it ripple across the tables, sharp and thick. I glanced at my wife. Her smile was gone. My daughter was frozen, eyes wide. The room blurred, except for David's voice echoing above it all. But seriously, man, you're proof that even people with financial gaps can make it here. More laughter, then applause. I smiled, not because I meant it, just because it was the only thing I had control over at that moment. Under the table, my fist clenched around the edge of my seat so tight my knuckles split open. David moved on, but the room was still vibrating. A few minutes later, my wife touched my shoulder and whispered, I'm taking her home. I didn't stop her. I couldn't. That night, I drove back alone. No music, no headlights from other cars, just the sound of my own breathing and the rustling of the gift bag on the passenger seat. A small bracelet I'd bought for my daughter earlier. She'd never even opened it. I stood in the doorway of her room when I got home. She was already asleep. I watched her for a while, then closed the door quietly. The next morning, my badge didn't open the main elevator. I tried again. Nothing. My phone buzzed with an internal message from HR. Please check your email before continuing to your desk. The subject line read, Team Realignment, Product Development. The body of the message was 2 sentences long. Thank you for your contributions. Effective immediately, you are being reassigned from Project Horizon. That was my project, my idea, my blueprint, my people. The official reason, cultural misalignment. I stared at the screen, then clicked the attachment. The replacement, a junior manager I once trained. I didn't go to my desk. I went home. The silence in the house felt thicker than usual. My wife sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through her phone. When I walked in, she didn't look up. After a pause, she said, You should see this. She turned the screen around. A clip, 23 seconds long. David's speech. The moment he mocked me. Laughter. My frozen expression. It had captions. It was posted anonymously in a private parent group from our daughter's school. It already had 67 reactions. "You can't control it," she said quietly, "but it's out there." I nodded. An hour later, HR called. A different rep this time. Cold voice, practiced empathy. "We're just recommending you take a little time to decompress. Maybe 2 weeks?" I asked. "Am I suspended?" She chuckled. "Oh no, just think of it as a breather. To recalibrate." When the call ended, I didn't speak. I walked to the sink, rolled up my sleeves, and began washing the breakfast dishes still piled from the night before. In the background, my daughter read aloud from a school poetry book. Her tiny voice rose and fell with each line, like music from another world. Halfway through, she stopped. "Daddy? Do you need to change jobs again?" My hands paused in the soapy water. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I said, "That poem, can you read it again for me?" She smiled and started from the top. I smiled too, but it wasn't from peace. It was the kind of smile you wear when you're remembering something very clearly. Something like how humiliation tastes when served cold, under chandelier light, with applause. They thought I'd disappear quietly. They assumed my silence meant surrender, but they didn't realize silence was my sharpest weapon. I started simple, navigating the company's internal logs like a ghost. I wasn't supposed to have access anymore, but they hadn't revoked my credentials yet. Rookie mistake. The meeting room schedules revealed a strange pattern. Late-night sessions between David and 3 senior developers I didn't recognize. None of them were on payroll. Their names didn't appear in the official database, but they had booked executive conference rooms using a floating admin ID. One I'd built years ago when automating the back-end booking tool. Curious, I cross-referenced the building's Wi-Fi access logs. A MAC address pinged regularly during those meetings. Always the same one. It traced back to a device registered under a company I didn't recognize, Valterra Labs. I checked Valterra's registration. It was barely 2 months old. A tech consultancy specializing in AI tools, registered in Delaware. The listed owner? Logan Riker, David's younger brother. My stomach dropped. Valterra's server IP matched an outgoing request I'd flagged last quarter for accessing sandboxed prototype data. I'd dismissed it then. Just an internal test, I'd thought. Now, I knew better. David wasn't just mocking me. He was stealing from the company, using my project as a launchpad for his family's shell firm. And the board? Either they were blind or complicit. I leaned back, letting that weight settle. Then I moved on. My inbox, technically frozen, still had cached data. One email subject caught my eye. Export model framework before Q4 close. It was forwarded accidentally from a finance exec to HR. A classic CYA thread. I opened it. Inside was a PDF attachment detailing a resource reallocation plan. In essence, a full transfer of intellectual property from our division to an external consultancy partner. Guess who? Valterra Labs. No board vote. No transparency. Just a series of smiles, handshakes, and hidden knives. I stared at my reflection in the dark monitor. Rage simmered, but I wasn't shaken. Not anymore. I needed more. Not just data. Witnesses. That's when my phone vibrated. The message was short. No name. "If you're still fighting, meet me at Cora's Cafe. 3 p.m. Ask for black tea." I didn't hesitate. The cafe sat tucked between a laundromat and an insurance agency. No cameras. Cash only. Smart. She was already there. Kara. Once a brilliant developer in our machine learning team. until she suddenly vanished a year ago. Rumors said burnout. Others whispered NDA threats. But here she was, sipping tea, like a storm waiting to be named. "Long time," I said, sliding into the booth. She gave a half smile. "I heard about the dinner. Classy." I didn't respond. "You want dirt on David, don't you?" I nodded. She reached into her bag and slid over a flash drive. Logs, email chains, a voice memo. He had me write code to obfuscate export trails. Said it was for model redundancy in case of breach. Bullshit. "Why now?" I asked. "Because someone finally didn't laugh with him," she said, eyes narrowing. "And because I'm tired of being scared." We sat in silence for a while. She added sugar to her tea with robotic calm. Then I said, "You know, this is the first conversation I've had in days where I didn't feel invisible." She smiled genuinely. "You're not invisible, Ethan. You're just dangerous now." When we parted, I didn't go home. I went to a co-working space downtown. I knew a guy, a former black hat who now did cybersecurity audits for nonprofits. Name, Adrian. He looked like a barista, but talked like a war general. I showed him Valtra's metadata. He nodded. He's laundering access, using one-time relays. Clever, but not clever enough. I asked, "Can you trace the registration email?" He raised an eyebrow. "You're not going to like the answer." "Tell me." Adrian turned the screen. "The crypto wallet that funded the domain registration? It's under your old assistant's name. Hannah, the one who quit 6 months ago." My heart twisted. She was loyal. Adrian shrugged. Loyal doesn't pay rent. He kept digging. And get this. David didn't use his own ID. He cloned a dead guy's profile from the company's legacy HR system to build the Valtra profile. It's psychotic-level genius. I leaned forward, absorbing it all. Adrian added, "I can package this for you, with receipts, but what you do with it, that's on you." On my walk back to the car, my phone buzzed again. This time, no message, just a photo. It was my daughter, at school. The caption read, "Careful who you threaten." I stopped cold, breath gone. This wasn't about career anymore. This was about safety, about family. I stood there, one hand shaking, the other gripping the flash drive Kara gave me. A question surfaced inside me, quiet but piercing. If the man who tried to ruin your life is now trying to harm others, how far are you willing to go? I didn't rush. Panic was for people with no plan. Instead, I went back to basics: logic, control, precision. The data from Kara, the crypto trail from Adrian, and the metadata from Valtra formed a blueprint. I didn't need to shout. I just needed to set the right tripwire. So I built one. I created a mirrored data model of Project Horizon, perfectly clean, except for one synthetic variable buried deep in the architecture. It looked like a critical component. But in reality, it was a marker, my fingerprint in code. If it ever appeared anywhere outside the company's sandbox, I'd know who took it, when, and where. I uploaded it to the internal dev drive under the title, Pre-Release Optimization Model, Confidential, and waited. 2 days later, my tracker pinged. Valtra Labs downloaded it at 2:13 a.m. I didn't smile. I just opened a new encrypted email draft and attached the proof. I didn't use my name, just a digital signature. But before I could hit send, a reply landed in my inbox. From an address I didn't recognize. No subject, no introduction, just one sentence. "I've been waiting for you." I froze. The footer signature was scrambled, but had markers unique to the board's proxy system. Whoever it was. They weren't some mid-tier executive. They were on the inside. I replied with a single file, the proof package, fully indexed, time-stamped, and cross-referenced. Another reply came instantly. Meet me tomorrow, 11 a.m., room 5. No one else. No name. No logo. But the time and room were real. I showed up early. Room 5 was a glass-walled conference space overlooking the courtyard. Rain splattered the windows. The sky was gray, like a held breath. He entered, wearing a hoodie and jeans. Not what I expected from a board member. Name's irrelevant, he said, tossing his coat on the chair. But I've seen enough. You're not the first to raise flags, just the first to do it smart. He leaned in. David's been playing with fire for months. We couldn't move without hard evidence. Now we have it. So what now? I asked. He slid over a tablet. This is the schedule for Friday's strategy review. He thinks he's presenting his expansion pitch, but you'll be there too. I blinked. You want me in the room? I want you to cut the brake lines, quietly. Before I could answer, he stood. And Ethan, don't flinch. The next 2 days moved like slow chess. I updated my files, built a slide deck mirroring David's, except mine had the real numbers, the theft trails, the identity fraud, the blockchain link to crypto laundering, all sourced, cited, traceable. On Friday morning, I wore the same suit I wore to the dinner. Poetic symmetry. As I walked into the boardroom, David looked up and froze. Didn't expect to see you here, he said, smirking. I was invited, I replied, calm. He launched into his pitch. Buzzwords, graphs, fake growth curves, the usual con. Then the board chair turned to me. Mr. Miles, you have something to add? I stood, opened my laptop, and projected the first slide. Data, code, voice memos, IP logs, real-time tracebacks. No flair, just facts. David tried to interrupt. That's a misinterpretation. I clicked again. The code marker. Click. The wallet. Click. The dead employee ID. Silence. Then a murmur. Someone at the table whispered, "Oh my God." I closed the laptop. That's all. David stood, red-faced. This is a setup. This is bullshit. The chair raised a hand. David, please leave the room. He refused at first, until security appeared at the door. He left without another word. I sat back down. Someone else whispered, who else knew about this? No one answered. But in that silence, something else began. Later that day, I walked out into the rain. Didn't rush, didn't look back. I stood on the sidewalk, letting the drops soak through my shirt. The city moved around me. Horns, umbrellas, life. I tilted my head up and closed my eyes. Not in triumph, in release. It wasn't over, but the first cut had landed. And this time, it wasn't on me. It started as a whisper, a single tweet, just a screenshot from the boardroom, a blurry frame of David standing with his jaw tight, arms crossed, a vein bulging at his temple. No context, no caption, just the hashtag for AI betrayal. Within hours, it had over 10,000 retweets. By midnight, trending across tech Twitter. The internet didn't need all the details. It just needed the scent of blood. Reddit threads exploded. Users dug into old employee reviews. Someone linked an archived video of David dismissing a junior engineer's demo on stage, laughing mid-presentation. A former intern posted a blurry email screenshot. Not everyone's meant to lead. Some people are just seat fillers. David's name was clearly visible at the bottom. The crowd turned hungry. On YouTube, a familiar face appeared. A creator with 5 million subscribers, known for reviewing startups and exposing fake disruption buzz. He stared into the camera, eyes sharp behind round glasses. 3 years ago, he said, I was threatened with a lawsuit. The claim? Defamation? The subject? A small segment where I criticized a beta AI tool for scraping personal data without consent. He paused. Guess who led that beta? David Riker. He leaned forward. I stayed silent. I didn't want the drama. But now, AI betrayal? Let's talk. He dropped names, dates, documents. His video hit 2 million views before lunchtime. I didn't post. I didn't share. I didn't even like or comment. I just watched. Watched the same way you'd watch the first domino fall, knowing exactly how the rest would collapse. By the end of the week, the company's stock had dipped 12%. Investors demanded answers. The CEO issued a public statement. We are deeply disappointed. Internal integrity is non-negotiable. David Riker is no longer affiliated with our company in any capacity. Short, measured, cold. A surgical cut meant to sever ties, not save face. Inside, whispers turned to silence. People walked faster in the halls. Desks were cleared discreetly. HR sent out memos about new culture workshops. And yet, through it all, no one looked at me. Not with pity. Not with fear. Just acknowledgement. The quiet kind that says, you were right, and we know it. I was in the break room, stirring my coffee, when the text came in. Unknown number. Still building? We have something for you. Attached was a calendar invite. Anonymous, but with a location tag. An old warehouse space downtown. Recently converted into a startup incubator. I went. The room smelled like fresh paint and ambition. Folded laptops, half-assembled desks, a whiteboard already filled with ideas. 4 people were waiting. None of them familiar. Until they introduced themselves. All ex-employees. All let go or pushed out by David over the years. Smart. Sharp. Tired of being silent. We're launching something, one said. Real AI. Transparent. Ethical. We want you to lead it. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I asked, why me? They looked at each other. Then one replied, because you didn't burn the place down. You let it collapse under its own lies. That takes restraint. It wasn't flattery. It was a diagnosis. I told them I'd think about it. On my way home, I stopped by the grocery store. My phone buzzed again, this time from a name I knew. Mom. I answered. She didn't say hello, just, you sound tired. I am, I admitted. She paused. Are you done? I looked out over the city skyline, the late afternoon sun bouncing off glass and steel. No, I said, but I think I did the right thing. Another pause. Then, good. Your father wouldn't have. I smiled. That night, I sat on the couch with my daughter. She was coloring a robot with rainbow legs. Is your boss still mad? She asked. I shook my head. He's not my boss anymore. She nodded. Good. He wasn't very nice. Then she added, can we go to the Science Museum again? You said we would last year. I remember, I said, and I meant it. But just as I was tucking her in, another message came through. We're finalizing funding. It's real now. Come build with us. No pressure, no expectations, just opportunity. But I didn't respond right away. I stood by the window, staring out into the quiet night. Somewhere in the distance, another domino was tipping over. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of the noise it might make. I thought victory would feel louder. But in the weeks that followed, life became quieter than ever. No interviews, no parades, just space, like the world had exhaled after holding its breath for too long. I didn't take the startup job. Not yet. Instead, I signed on to mentor a group of graduate students, in an AI ethics fellowship at the university downtown. 3 days a week, I sat in a classroom with bright-eyed idealists who hadn't yet been bruised by boardrooms or budgets. I told them stories, not all of them mine. Sometimes just questions. Who are you building for? I'd ask. And more importantly, who gets hurt when you're wrong? They listened. They pushed back. They asked good questions. The kind I wish I'd asked myself a decade earlier. One Tuesday morning, my inbox pinged with a new message. No subject line. Just an old name in the sender field. David Riker. The body of the email was short. I was wrong. About everything. You were right to expose it. But it wasn't just me. There are others. Bigger. Older. Hidden. I thought I could beat them by playing their game. I couldn't. Be careful. They don't forget. No threats. No anger. Just a strange, exhausted tone. I read it twice, then deleted it. But it stayed with me. That same evening, around dinner, there was a knock at the door. I expected a neighbor, maybe a package. But the man on the other side wore a suit tailored enough to scream two things: power and precision. He introduced himself without a smile. I represent Nova Systems, he said. We believe your insight into internal sabotage and ethical framework design is invaluable. He handed me a card. Simple. Embossed. I'm not looking for a job, I said. He nodded. This isn't a job. It's a position of influence. Build with us, guide us, or watch others make worse mistakes. Then he left. No pitch. No deadline. Just the open door. I didn't sleep well that night. Instead, I wrote, I stayed up drafting a post for LinkedIn, but it turned into something else. A manifesto, maybe. A reflection. It began with, revenge isn't silence. It's understanding your own pain first, so you don't pass it forward. I hit post at 3:14 a.m., then shut my laptop and went back to bed. By the time I woke, the post had 40,000 reactions. Comments poured in from former coworkers, strangers, leaders I respected. People shared their own stories, their own silences. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I made good on a promise. That Saturday, I took my daughter to the park. We didn't rush. She made me ride the carousel twice. We bought ice cream and sat on the grass. She pointed to a man walking his dog. Does he work with you? No, I said, smiling. Do you work now? Not like before. Are you happier? I thought for a moment. I'm closer. Later, while she played with a bubble wand, I told her a story. A simple one, about a man who had been shouted at, humiliated, pushed down. But instead of yelling back, he learned to listen, to himself, to the quiet, to the people who had no microphones but needed voices. She didn't say anything, but I saw how she listened. That was enough. That night, I got a call from Kara. She sounded different, lighter, like she had found ground again. There's something I want you to see, she said. It's a project I'm helping with. She sent me a link. It led to a website, clean, minimalist, Open Signal, Workplace Safety and Advocacy Network, a nonprofit, designed to support employees dealing with toxic work environments, retaliation, discrimination. I clicked on the About page. It listed founders. The last name made me pause. Hannah, my old assistant. She wasn't laundering crypto after all. She was building something that mattered in the shadows of what we tore down. The final twist? There was an open letter on the front page, signed by multiple tech leaders and advocates. The letter ended with, "We are inviting Ethan Miles to join our global advisory board." No pressure, no expectation, just acknowledgement. I sat back in my chair and let the silence return. Not the brittle, suffocating kind from before. This silence was fuller, warmer. It didn't demand an answer. It just asked me to keep listening. The auditorium was packed. Rows of venture capitalists, engineers, startup founders, professors, and students filled the sleek, chrome-lined seats. Behind the stage was a massive screen lit with soft white text, the new AI, authentic integrity. I wasn't introduced with fanfare, just a quiet voice from the wings. Please welcome Ethan Miles. I stepped up to the podium in silence. No slides, no rehearsed pitch, just the weight of everything I'd seen and the people who still hadn't spoken up. I'm not here because I built something flashy, I began. I'm here because I survived something toxic and decided to make it mean something. The room hushed. We talk a lot about disruption, innovation, speed. But what we forget to ask is, at what cost? Whose silence paved the way for our breakthroughs? Whose voice did we drown with performance metrics and company culture? I looked out into the sea of faces, some curious, some uncomfortable. Good. Integrity in AI doesn't start with code. It starts with culture, with leadership, with deciding every day not to trade humanity for efficiency. I paused. Don't let your success be measured by how many people stay quiet around you. A slow wave of applause began. But before it could swell, someone stood from the back. He walked forward, not rushed, not hesitant. I recognized him. A senior board member from my old company. One who had always sat through meetings with tight lips and folded arms. Today, he took the mic beside me. I don't deserve this stage, he said, voice tight. But I need to say something. He turned to the crowd. I'm one of the people who knew, who saw the signs, who stayed silent because it was safer. His eyes scanned the audience. I am the proof that success built on fear is fragile. That silence, mine, was complicity. And I'm done hiding behind power suits and silence. He stepped back, and for a second, no one clapped. Then the applause came, not for pride, but for vulnerability. I nodded once. No smile, just acknowledgement. The talk ended with a Q&A. Someone asked what I'd do next. I'll keep listening, I said. That's where change starts. As I exited the hall, reporters waited, microphones outstretched. I waved politely, but didn't stop. Halfway to the street, my phone buzzed. A breaking news alert. FBI opens inquiry into leaked AI datasets tied to 2023 privacy violations. Internal whistleblower leads to high-level probe. The accompanying image was of my former building. I closed the notification. There was nothing left for me there now. At home, I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my tie. My daughter leaned against the door frame, arms crossed like a tiny CEO. You're going to another speech? Not tonight, I said. Just dinner. With some people who want to build better things. She tilted her head. You look like an action figure. I laughed. Yeah? But, she added, stepping closer, you don't need a cape. You're already an actual hero. I knelt down, met her eyes. Being a hero isn't about winning, sweetheart. It's about knowing who you don't want to become. She nodded seriously, then skipped off to finish her drawing. Before I left, I opened my laptop, almost by instinct, and watched the clip again. The dinner, the laughter, David's smug grin, my frozen smile. But this time, I didn't feel anger, or shame, or pain, just clarity. That moment had built the road I now stood on. I closed the video and stood, ready to go. One last notification popped up. A message from someone I didn't recognize. Hi, you don't know me. I was an intern 3 years ago. I saw what happened. I never thought I had a voice. But because of your story, I just turned down a promotion offer that came with conditions, the kind that make you sick to say yes to. I didn't say yes. I didn't stay silent. Thank you. I stared at it, then typed 2 words. That's how. I hit send, then added 1 more. You win. And with that, I shut the lid, turned out the light, and stepped into the night, not to escape the past, but to build something that could finally outlive it.